Well, good evening, everyone, and welcome to another episode here on the Land of Saints and Sinners. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Follow us on all the social media platforms, X and TikTok. Well, tonight's subject is very important because, of course, we've had revealing news today that the big bear of Russia is being poked by the EU, by Macron and Friedrich, and I can't remember all their names.
Tusk and yeah,
that's
And
right.
obviously, Karma
Starmer, yeah, he's involved as well. The Kier, he's being called Kier now, isn't he?
Kier.
Kier's on the gear.
Because Macron had a bag of cocaine stashed somewhere, didn't he? And a little ladle spoon. It was the German president or prime minister, whatever he is, isn't it? I know.
They forgot to clear the tables before they started filming the media shots. I think
It's quite a big bag, mate.
It was a big bag, yeah.
I'm like, did you put that on your expenses?
What if you paid 3 for 100? If you know, you know. If you know, you know. But yeah, I don't think I don't think. Well, it's just 3 grams for 100 quid. In it. That's the going rate, love. It's the going rate, like. So
allegedly,
yeah. Unless you're in London, it's more expensive, which they probably didn't pay for. They probably had it for free anyway. It's a backhander, you know.
From the police.
Well, possibly, yeah. From proceeds of crime or something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we wanted to talk about that tonight, didn't we? You mentioned it earlier. That, of course, we put some stuff out earlier on TikTok about it. About how Keir Starmer seems to be literally dragging us by our feet into a war that we should have nothing to do with, and it has the hallmarks of Tony Blair.
I was going to say they're like doppelgangers, but just not looking wise, just spirit wise, and the energy.
It's not just Keir though, is it? It's the usual suspects. It's all of those. There's Macron, there's Tusk, there's Kier. They're just always those that are mixing and meddling. And trying to create the circumstances for upsetting, making people fear the problems that are going on in Ukraine. And I think it's the ulterior motives again. And it seems to be that coalition of willing, I think is what they call themselves, isn't it?
Fear is the biggest drive for people. So when you are basing something on fear, everybody's reactions are completely out of sorts. You know, you start reacting and you're reactive and everything is so acute when you are running on fear. And actually, you know, that is the way that the media and the government hatch these plans to just ensure that the people are just running scared. You know, I don't like the news. I don't like what they're doing. And I just don't trust the collective to actually have our best interests at heart.
I think the weird thing was that they went to see Zelensky. They made an announcement and they made 3 demands, didn't they? An immediate 30-day ceasefire, for Russia to give back all the territory, and then for Putin and all the other people that have been accused of war crimes to hand themselves in. And if they didn't do that, then if they didn't agree to those talks for the immediate ceasefire and the other demands, then the EU were going to step up sanctions and they were going to start giving more weapons to Ukraine. And it's like, come on, as a negotiating position, there's no way. They know, and that's what we're saying. It's poking the bear. Like Putin
was premeditated, because what they're doing is they are setting this bar of expectation from this is what we're doing, people. But the truth is, you know, it's not going to be resolved because it's an absolute farce.
And Putin came out himself, didn't he, straight away, and he said, "I'm not going to." He said, "I'll have peace talks, but I'm not going to go with anything on the table. Don't make any demands. We'll go down and we'll sit down and we'll have that talk."
Well, why is Trump having to get involved?
Well, Trump turned around and said exactly the same. He said, "Just go and have the talks, and then
don't put demands out.
Don't put the demands there. Go and have the talks, and then we can see whether Russia really is wants peace, because that's what Putin said. He wants peace as well, but he doesn't want to go. He doesn't want to be seen to be kowtowing to demands." So he turned around and said, "I'll have talks, but take everything off the table, and then let's start afresh." And then Donald turned around and said, "Do you know what? That's a good starting point. At least then, if you go and he shows willing, we will know where we all stand, and then we can work out what we do." I mean, at the moment, the way that they acted, it's like turning around saying to the kids, "If you don't behave, I'm not taking you to the zoo tomorrow."
Yeah, I think you got to remember as well, Putin's a guy who wrestled with a bear. You know, this guy is like karate chop man, bosh, bish, bash, bosh. But, you know, what's his name? Keir Starmer can't even sort of ding you out, let's be honest. So, Oh, the teddy bear. I mean, so I'm seeing a punch bag as well. I mean, talking about two-tier gear, I think we should show that clip.
Oh, it's a long walk. Are we back in Poland?
And through my bathroom, huh?
Yeah. It's literally. We came through Germany, and then we made it to France.
German bedroom, and
we got through the border.
Right.
The photo, and after that you will be allowed to have a drink.
Yeah.
Super.
Yeah.
Tout le monde va bien.
Ok, c'est bon. Merci.
Merci.
So, what do you reckon then? Do you reckon they were up to no good?
The marching powder.
The marching powder, that's what it is.
They were certainly.
It was the trying to disguise it. It's like they're
Yeah.
actually trying to hide it. It's like, yeah. Oh, shit, we're going to try and hide this now.
It's like one of those middle class dinner parties. Not that I've ever been to one, but yeah, where they get the tray out and then the vicar comes in. It's like, oh, get that away. I mean, if it looks like a duck, walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it generally is
It's a duck.
And the thing is as well, he's not even consulted the British people, right? So you're talking about troops on the ground, but surely that has to go through Parliament. But all this has been done at the summit. They're having meetings amongst themselves, the EU leaders, 5 of them. Then they're going to have the 31 that were part of the coalition of the willing, whatever that means. But they don't realise how powerful Russia is. Now, you're talking about, I think, £75 trillion in this war chest, right? The resources they have for this war. There are 13 other countries that are backing Russia that are way more powerful than the EU. I mean, even with all the combined forces of European states, they're nowhere near going to be able to do anything when it comes to the war in Russia. So we're actually going to be putting our own country in huge danger, given the fact that a lot of cyber attacks come from Russia to begin with, China.
We've got cyber attacks going on at the moment, haven't we?
Absolutely.
We don't know where they're
Co-op, Marks and Spencer's, they're all happening.
Yeah, so I think that, Keir Starmer is literally dragging this nation by its feet into a war that we don't want to go into, we don't want to be part of.
Well, we were talking about this earlier, weren't we? And I don't like coincidences, and I don't think it's a coincidence that on May the 19th, there's an EU summit in the UK about closer alignment with the EU, about sharing various different things in order for two-tier Kier on the gear to deliver Brexit for the British people, but with an alignment with Europe. And we all know that part of that is having an EU army, and that EU army means that it'll be a centralized, organized, centralized power base where our troops would be able to be sent by the European command. But it also involves having our intelligence under the command of the EU. Our MI5, MI6, all of that will then be held centrally by the EU. And the way to get it through and the way to get the people on board is for people to be in fear and go, do you know what, we need a European army. That's the thing that I've got in the back of my mind. It's all too much of a coincidence. They've created this poke the bear. Let's stir up Putin so the European nations can be in fear. And do you know what? We've got a solution already made. We've made an agreement on Monday in order to stop the threat from Putin. We're going to have a European army.
But let's talk about our troops. Like, how many do we have?
You've been speaking to troops, ex-servicemen and current servicemen over the last few days, both of you, and they're saying that they're leaving in droves. That people are leaving. That they're no longer willing to for a number of reasons, but they're no longer serving in the army. So they're not able to recruit enough people to cover the amount that are leaving.
That's my point.
Yeah, and I think in fairness as well, the Conservatives screwed it up as well. They didn't put enough money into our defence.
Yeah. So
they hollowed it out. I think Ben Wallace was the Defence Secretary at the time. And he literally, I mean, he was campaigning hard. In fairness to him, I quite admired the guy because he really pushed for more money to go into our armed forces to build up our defences, because he could see this coming.
Yeah.
He was telling them about China, Russia, and the threat that they were making to the country. He foresaw this, and he got booted out of the cabinet, and then he lost his seat, everything else. And we've not strengthened. We're giving foreign aid to countries around the world, right? We're talking hundreds and hundreds of millions to foreign aid projects, in these, tour-worn countries, whatever it's called, or these underdeveloped countries. but we're not secure in our own country. And surely the first job of any prime minister is to protect
Security.
its own citizens. It's the same as Donald Trump. It's about homeland. It's about security. We can't even protect the borders. Never mind go to a war in Europe. We can't even stop them coming in. But never mind going over there.
Is it another coincidence that the head of our armed forces, the Sea Lord, resigned this week as well?
Yeah.
I mean, again, there's a lot of things going on in the background here. Why is he all of a sudden chosen to go? I think again, it's not one thing; it's a multitude of things, and I think it's exactly that. There's so much in terms of not feeling secure, not having the right resources to secure the safety for the British people. There appears to be more going on than what we're being told.
Absolutely. I think that Macron as well. I mean, obviously, I got no trust in him whatsoever. I think the general consensus is that he's a Europhile anyway. He's completely on board with that. And I think Tony Blair's working behind the scenes somewhere because he's always part of it, and he always has been, isn't he? And I just really think that what we're doing right now is going to have a huge impact. I mean, conscription into the army. We had First and Second World War. We knew what that was about, right? It was about actually fighting for real freedom. So we spoke to veterans on VE Day at the commemoration in Oswestry. And it's very clear to us that the people that we spoke with, they were so disheartened with the way the country's turned out. And we didn't prime them. We didn't, kind of lead in questions. We just asked them. I mean, one chap that we spoke to who broke down in tears, he just said, our country's turned into a shithole. And I hate our Prime Minister. And this is a guy who's given his life and saw his friends killed in battle, and in his mind he's thinking, why did I do that? Why did we go to war? Why did I lay down my life for what was the point?
I don't think I've ever felt so emotional actually in watching that, because this wasn't just like a little cry or a little tear. This was from deep within. This was just like an absolute grief outpouring, and you had to hug him and hold him so tightly. And that lasted for quite a while. It wasn't just like a little, there you go, mate. It was just like a real deep connection, because, these people, like you said, have gone to war and have fought for something. But what's happening now? Like, what's the point?
I think that's the problem, isn't it? These people have gone to fight for our freedoms. And in the process, they were prepared to make the ultimate sacrifice. They had friends that did make the ultimate sacrifice, but it was for a reason and a noble reason. And something that they believed in, and they're looking around now and they're like going, why did my friend die for this? Because this isn't what we did. And I think that's the other thing as well about this centralized European army, is that they could turn around and say every person, like they're doing in Ukraine, every person from 18 to 20 conscripted. We won't have a choice about it. Our parliament won't have a choice about it, because it's going to be drafted by the EU Central Command.
And when you think about war now, it's different to what it was in the First and Second World. Troops on the ground, it was face-to-face combat. I mean, because of technology and because of the way drones are used now, we don't need as many troops on the ground. So they can say, well, we don't have as much in our armed forces and the RAF and the Navy and all that kind of stuff combined. I mean, I think I spoke to somebody a couple of weeks ago and they said we don't have enough soldiers to fill Wembley Stadium. So that's why the combined effort. But I think the way technology's moved on, it'll be a battle around that really. Who's got the best technology, the best tanks, the best missile range, and all that kind of stuff. And if you look at Russia, and you've seen the parade, actually, did you see that parade where they were showing off? I mean, it's frightening.
It was impressive.
It was very impressive. I mean, North Korea are the same. They do the same.
It's a sign of strength, isn't it? Look at what we got.
Yeah. And I felt that.
Yeah, and I think that's what we must look at and realise. We're not just, this isn't a game. This is serious. These are people's lives. And, whilst we've been looking at what's happening in Gaza and Ukraine and Russia, now we're all piling into this Russian war. Kier Starmer, I believe he's doing this to try and make himself something that he's not, because he's failed on so many things domestically. Now he's like, you know what? I'm this leader. I'm this, and he's. He is.
This is. It's ridiculous. But the frightening thing is as well, and we've put stuff out there, and people have commented.
I hate to say this. I'm thinking about literally whilst here in England, We're just like droning stink bombs.
Yeah.
Literally droning stink bombs. Like, is that a new sort of like attack?
Well, I think they're probably taking their hints from somewhere else, getting their practice in now before they get pulled up. We've had comments on some of our posts around sort of like, I think someone called white feather cowards and things like that around some of the things that we've been saying and sort of like pro Putin, which couldn't be further from the truth. We don't want to see unnecessary loss of life. We don't want to see war, and we don't believe the motives behind what they're doing. And these are people that are sitting there and watching what goes on in Gaza, willing to turn around and say that they want our towns and our streets to look like that. They're sitting there and they're talking about the horrors of what they see in Gaza and what's happening to the Palestinian people, and yet they're willing us and people part of this European project are willing us to create that on our shores. What do they think is going to happen if there is a war? Like, it baffles me that people are turning around and saying, yeah, we should stand up to Putin. No, we should do everything in our power to stop war, because we don't want to see what's happening in Gaza happening here.
Yeah, well, I think diplomacy is the way forward in it, because that's what brings reconciliation and peace. And I think that Zelensky's agreed to a meeting now, isn't he, with Putin, which is a massive. But I think Trump has been very instrumental in that. I mean, they're one of the great superpowers in the world, and I think, but with Trump, you never know. You can say one thing one day and something else the next day, which is where he plays the field, because what he does is no one knows what he's going to come out with and what he's going to change. So they're on edge all the time. So I think that's his kind of strategy. He's a businessman. He always has been. It's transactional for him, isn't it? Yeah. And I think what he's seeing is he's looking at the war. He's seeing the loss of life. He's seeing the impact it's having on the economies around not just Europe and in America as well. But Putin, quite frankly, does not give a toss. He's not scared about 5 muppets in the European Union who sat on a table today. You can probably see the photo in a few moments, so I'll show some of the clip of it. Sitting around a table, coming up with a plan, talking to Zelensky in Kiev. They're all sat there, and Putin must be sitting there in his gold chair with his, this gold gilded desk that he sits behind with his phone, sat there thinking to himself, what a bunch of tosspots. I mean, literally, he doesn't care. He really doesn't care.
I mean, that plan that they came up with was like 5 blokes in a pub that sitting around and been on a bender.
Yeah.
And then
they were on a bender, they were on the marching powder.
Yeah, and then had the livener and gone, we better come up with something. Yeah. What did we come up with? Because it was absolutely ludicrous what they came up with. And like you say, diplomacy is what's going to win this. Yeah. And that does not scream of diplomacy.
Is Macron married to a bloke? Is she a bloke? I don't know.
I don't know.
His miss says she looks like a bloke.
I don't know. There are contrasting theories on whether.
Why do politicians date people that might be blokes? That's weird, isn't it? That's why I don't want to become a politician. Well, she's gone missing. She's gone AWOL, and she
just feels like a carry-on Kier, doesn't it?
Yeah, she's probably off with Ali somewhere shopping, clothes shopping down Harrods or something like that. You never know, do you? So I do think though that they are. I mean, we're making light of it, but it's a serious situation.
It is
for a lot of people.
I think that's the bit, is that we don't want to see loss of life. We don't want to see unnecessary war, stress, trouble, and it does make you think, why are they so aggressive in their stance? What is who's pushing them? Like, because someone's going to have some skin in the game in order to be profiting from this. There's always someone going to be making money out of this, isn't there? And I think we've been told by the European Union, von der Leyen, that if we want to be part of it and our companies to benefit from it, we've got to pay £150 million.
You know what worries me actually is that whilst everybody's saying, we need to stand up, like we've had so many comments that have been like really negative, telling us that we'll reform, or we're not thinking about conservatives. Well, we've considered it all, but we're actually in the present and dealing with the present. But they're my children that might be going forward, and I don't want my children going forward. I do not want my children to go to war. When you're telling us that, come on, stand up, do you actually consider that this may be your children that are having to go forward?
All this is Keir Starmer's lost the plot. He's lost the country. His poll ratings are shocking. So he thinks he's a Churchill. I'm going to save Europe. I'm going to stop Ukraine. He's an absolute muppet.
Do we think he's been pulled by the policy think tank that's the WEF?
Oh, by the way, he's part of the WEF, and of course,
Yeah.
WHO and all the UN, NATO.
All of those.
I mean, we already have NATO. We already have member
Exactly.
states. So, I mean, all of this is about money backhanders. You can't trust him. He's come out for the simple reason he's a weak prime minister. He's the worst prime minister I can think of. He's done more damage in 10 months than any other prime minister I've ever known, and I can think of quite a few. I mean, someone mentioned on one of our posts about Margaret Thatcher. I mean, you can't even compare the two. I mean, at least she won the Falklands War.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
She won the second
I mean,
term.
and Kier's on about giving away the Chagos Island. You'll just give them away. I mean, the guy is a nutter. And if you voted for Labour, I think you should hang your head in shame. Oh, well, you said they shouldn't. I think they should.
Yeah, but I think 29% of the people that did have now turned around and said that they regret it. And we're even seeing now that even his MPs are coming out and saying, "Come on, we need to change that. You need to talk to the people. You need to listen to the people." Because it certainly seems to me that as a prime minister, he's not acting on the interests of the British people, which is why I asked the question: whose interests is he acting upon? Because it doesn't seem like he's acted upon the wishes of the people, and even now his own party.
Like, you can't be just personable on one-on-one. You have to be, if you are leading a country, you have to have that kind of persona. You have to have that compassion and that empathy for everything, and I know it's going to be difficult making certain decisions, but that like you're saying, the MP was saying, well, I just think he needs to come here to kind of fix it, because it is completely broken. Trust has been completely broken, and that's really sad, because nobody likes him.
Yeah.
And nobody wants him in. Well, I certainly don't.
Well, even if they came up with a good policy, no one's going to buy it because they don't trust him.
Exactly.
Yeah. You can't lie down straight in bed, can you? And we mentioned earlier as well about some of the MPs that are turning against him. I know we're repeating ourselves, and I hate to do it, but just to emphasise the point, there is a rebellion happening with his backbenchers. There's a lot of Labour MPs now saying, "Look, we are the Labour Party, but what our leaders doing, we do not agree with," because they're afraid that they're going to lose their seats in 2029. They're afraid of the rise of reform. Whatever people think, I've noticed even today the amount of attacks against Nigel Farage, and they're giving him free oxygen, free airtime. And once again, we're non-partisan on this show. We don't, we don't support any political party, although there are policies within some parties we'll agree with and disagree with. But it's clear to me that Farage is tapping in to the psyche of the people of this country. He knows what they're frustrated about. He knows what they're angry about, and they're going to vote for him.
It's not hard to feel the dissent, though, is it?
No.
And I mean, we even read somewhere today as well that Corbyn's actually looking to create an alternative. So if he can attract the left of the party, I mean, Bergen's already come out and been slating of the leadership, and there will be going to be others on that left of the party that are more aligned with Corbyn. So it'd be interesting to see if that momentum that Corbyn had before, whether he creates something like that, and how many people and how many MPs that he takes with him for the left equivalent of reform.
Yeah, he'll probably have the Gaza group in already in Westminster with him.
George Galloway.
Yeah. Well, I don't know about that. I think
Well, George was out in Russia, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was out there with Steven Seagal, wasn't he? And had a photo of him out there. I seen it today. Yeah,
and didn't he get an award from Iran as well? So he hot-footed over to Iran, got an award, then popped over to see Vladimir.
Yeah. I've often been invited onto the show, but I've turned it down. Nick and they probably might be watching this. They're his producers. They invited me on a couple of days ago, and I was like, "Nah, you're all right," because I know what George does. You see, he'll get you on there, and you don't have an opinion. He'll just slate you and cut you off. So I'm like, "Nah," but I will do it. I don't care. I can hold my own. I'm a Welshman, I don't mind. I'll do anything. I'll go anywhere when I'm invited. But I do think what Kier Starmer is doing right now is of great concern, isn't it, to us, to a lot of people. But on the other side, a lot of people have turned a blind eye to it as well, haven't they?
I can't understand that. I can't understand why anybody would turn a blind eye to it, because, again, it's their children. I can't cope with the fact that people just don't want to recognise it, because they just think,
I don't think they think it's going to happen.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not the inevitable. It's not going to happen. So, but it really is getting closer.
It feels real to me. It really does feel real to me. When you start piecing it all together, it's not one thing, it's a sum of all things. And when you start adding it all together, it starts looking very, very suspicious and very, very concerning. And again, there's no talk about it in Parliament. These are sovereignty matters and sovereignty issues, and it's not being discussed. They're not being open with us.
I think at the start, though, and a lot of people were very supportive of Ukraine when it was like, this is a foreign invasion of, of a sovereign nation. I think a lot of people were agreeing with it, but when you've looked into the finer details of what's been going on and the amount of money that's been poured into Ukraine has been unaccounted for, people then started to ask questions. Trump did it after 350 or 300 billion pounds. Where has the money gone? Where have they spent it?
When you look back, it goes back to 2014, and that's when the encroachment started. Was 2014, and that's when action should have been taken. That's when if it was going to be an outcry and support was given to Ukraine, it should have happened then. It shouldn't have waited for Russia to establish themselves within those states that were Russian speaking. So it goes back a lot further than people are sort of like talking about. Oh, it's only been like a year and a bit, isn't it? 2 years, is it? That this war has been going on. It's been going on a lot longer than that. A lot longer than that.
Well, we're coming to the end of the podcast, so I want to ask you, Jojo, have you got a message for your friend Kier Starmer?
We want you out. We don't trust you. Every part of me and my relationship with you is over. Yeah, we are done. I'm divorcing you.
Yeah, and I just, it worries me what's happening on May the 19th, and I really do expect an announcement of a closer alignment with Europe to come out of that, and it worries me the detail in the background. So yeah, watch this space.
Well, that's it for this evening. Thank you for joining us on another episode of The Land of Saints and Sinners. And let us know your thoughts in the comments. And of course, don't forget to hit all the subscribe buttons and like us across all the media social platforms. Give us all the big hearts and love. We'd really appreciate it. Hey, check out our TikTok as well. There's a lot of funny stuff on there as well. I'm sure you'll appreciate that as well. And we'll catch you soon right here on another episode of The Land of Saints and Sinners. Bye for now. Hey.